All right, hello there. I'm going to go over some quick ways to speed up workflow for the Pro Tools beginner, someone who maybe just opened up Pro Tools and started clicking around without really reading the manual or doing training and just kind of maybe develop their own ways of doing things. This is a quick way to maybe speed up your workflow because Pro Tools has a lot of things that if you don't know what to look for, you might not encounter these features without some sort of like training. So this is just a real quick overview. Way more info is available online, and specifically this is for podcast editing. So I open Pro Tools. The first thing I want to do, I want to adjust the views to maximize the screen real estate for the waveforms. So I'm going to hide all of these rulers I don't need. I don't need tempo. Might want markers. That might be a convenient thing to have. I don't need meter. I don't even need bars and beats. I'm just going to hide these for now too. Don't really need those. So here I have a fair amount of screen real estate to work with. And I'm going to start out by importing my tracks. So here's just some example material I made. Just going to drag and drop it in. I created 4 new tracks, which brings me to my next point. I see a lot of new folks using more tracks than necessary. And really, I would recommend just whatever if you have multiple clips of one person who was recorded in one place at one time with one mic, and they're all going to be kind of processed the same mix-wise, I would put them all in one track. Just try to keep your track count as low as possible. And I'll show you some ways to edit without using multiple tracks. So I get rid of these. And then I have a guest. So mix-wise, this person will have one kind of processing, this person will have the other, and it's going to be really easy to mix because it's only 2 tracks. So I see a lot of people like messing around with zoom excessively, like going zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom out, 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 etc., or using the zoom tool, which I think is kind of a waste of time, not the quickest way to zoom using the zoom tool. So the first thing I want to talk about is the zoom toggle button. So right now this track is enabled, so I can toggle to just make that fill the entire screen. Keyboard shortcut is E. When this means use keyboard buttons for the edit window. When this is selected, your keyboard is used for the edit window, which is what we want. If you're wondering why your keyboard shortcuts aren't working, it might be because that's disabled. So make sure that's enabled. You can use E to make it large. If you have both tracks enabled, I'm using a shift click to select more than one track. And I hit E, so that's a quick way to zoom. You can just toggle, see the big picture, select a part, etc. You also have these 5 zoom presets, which are, I believe by default, pretty helpful. And those correspond on your keyboard as well. Just the number keys above your letters, 1 through 5. And if you have the desire to edit these, you can just hold down, click and hold, and click save. And that'll overwrite the zoom preset with whatever your current zoom level is. But I think out of the box, it's pretty good. Okay, so now let's get to editing. Okay, so I'm going to go over working with playlists. For those who are used to like adding tracks, doing one of these things for editing where we have things all over the place and we are like dragging them around, which I don't do it that way. This will be a much better way to do it. So I'm going to delete these tracks. So you can go to playlist view, new playlist. So I'm going to call this Andy Edit. And so if I want to hear the original, I can just click this S for solo. This will solo the original track. Hi. If I unclick this, it'll play the main playlist. We can have more than one playlist, but just to keep things simple, we'll just have one additional playlist for a total of 2. There's Andy Edit and Andy01, which was just the file name. Okay, so now we know what playlists are and how to create new playlists. Let's start editing the show. Here's the beginning I want to start out the podcast with. Hi, my name is... So I'm going to copy. I'm going to paste that at the beginning. I can push the return or enter button to go to the top. So I just use C, V, because keyboard focus is enabled for the edit window. I don't need to hold down Command or Control. I can just use C and V for copy and paste. Let's see what that sounds like. Hi, my name is... Perfect. So I'm going to, you'll see why in a second, just skip ahead here. The weather outside is, so I'm going to take this region here. I'm going to copy. Since I'm in shuffle mode, once I paste this, I can hold down Control and just drag it, and it'll butt up right against the previous clip, which I think is good for podcast editing. If we were in slit mode, then we'd have to like think and click multiple times. But yeah, let's just stay in shuffle mode and do things quickly like this. This is also good. You should know what these mean anyway, but it's just easier to edit when you don't need to worry about gaps appearing. Okay, so let's see what that sounds like. Hi, my name is... The weather outside is... Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate a 3-point edit. So a 3-point edit is when I define 2 points on the source, start and end. So I have 2 points defined, Ralph. And I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go to the space in between the clips. So I just use tab for that, paste. As you can see, that was the 3rd point. So the first 2 points were 1, 2, and then 3 was the point between the 2 existing clips. So that's a 3-point edit. Let's see what that sounds like. Hi, my name is Ralph. The weather outside is... So I could take out that massive space by dragging it like this, but instead of using a 3-point edit, let's use a 4-point edit. So in a 4-point edit, I will define the start and end of the source and the start and end of the destination. So I'm going to copy that. Now I'm going to, I want to take up all this space basically with that clip, which is shorter. Since I'm in shuffle mode, it will move the material to the right of your edit point to accommodate for the differing length of the newly pasted material. So I was able to do that just in one step. Instead of doing a 3-point edit and moving stuff around, I just did a 4-point edit and we're already done. Hi, my name is Ralph. The weather outside is... There we go. And same thing, if I want to use a different region, let's see what this sounds like. Ricky. What was that? Ricky. Okay. Ricky. Okay. I already forget it. Wait, what was it again? Ricky. Cool. I'm going to paste that there. Again, we're in shuffle mode. Moved the clip to the right of it to accommodate. You probably have encountered this already, but if I were in slit mode, it didn't move that region. So it's easier to do it. Less clicks in shuffle mode. Hi. Whoops. Hi. My name is Ricky. The weather outside is... Okay, what next? So I'm still just using one track for my voice. I'm going to name these by double-clicking just to keep things easy. This is my name is... And if you have, hundreds of clips, this is where naming comes in handy. Andy Weather is, and this shouldn't affect the file name. Yeah, it's not touching my file names. And this was Ricky. Ricky, yep. And you can also modify the color. Let me just keep editing. Ralph. Kind of crappy. So I had more questions and answers. Whatever your... Now Now I'd like to bring on our special guest. So I've been copying and pasting. Another way I can just hold down Option or Alt and just drag just to copy it. So I just want to copy this up here, Alt, drag. And so now I'm going to use the second track. I can minimize this playlist by going back to waveform view. This is muted. I'm going to go to slip mode because shuffle mode I wouldn't be able to move this. But if I'm in slip mode, I can move it with some gap beforehand. And here's a guest who I won't name because he doesn't. So now I'd like to bring on our special guest who I won't name because he doesn't want anyone to know his name.
Oh, hey, Andy, I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. Just wanted to say that I don't like your favorite colors at all. I think they're really bad favorite colors. And if it were me, I would...
All right, what a rude guest. So I recorded some more material to cut him off. And that's enough from that guy. So what I can do, I can go to shuffle mode. I'll put this down here. Oops, wanted to copy it by Alt drag or Option drag. So just for timing purposes.
And if it were me, I would...
And that's enough from that guy. That's pretty much where I wanted it. Now that I got the timing right, I can go back to slip mode, Option drag. Now it's up there. Or I could rather do control drag. And I didn't really move my cursor in the horizontal plane. I just moved it straight up. So, you know, it's a little bit quicker and more exact than going straight, doing like one of these things. Where is it? Like, just put it down here. Go to shuffle mode, control click, and then you can just drag straight up. Oops. Once you're in slip mode.
Me, I would...
I think I misspoke earlier when I said you have to hold it control. You can just drag it. And as long as you don't move your cursor much, it won't change your timing. See, it's not changing the area of the timeline. It's just switching to a different track when I click and drag.
If it were me, I would...
And that's enough from that guy. So I'm going to go back to shuffle mode because I want that entrance point to remain, but I want the clip to not have that dead space.
For me, I would...
And that's enough from that guy. And there's a little bit of a glitch at the end.
For me, I would...
Where there's a little space bar sound, so I'm going to cut that off.
And if it were me, I would...
And that's enough from that guy. Cool. So next thing, fades. You can manually do fades one by one. So by the way, just to navigate around, I'm clicking tab, and then I'm just going to zoom in with E, and I'm going to zoom in with I went to zoom level 3 there. So that's how I quickly was able to change my zoom level 3, and then E to maximize the currently selected track. So a lot of people know about creating fades this way, really time consuming. So what we can do is just triple click to select all the clips on a track, which by the way, you can also, once this is selected, and as long as your link timeline or rather link track and edit selection is enabled, which it should generally be, I'd actually recommend generally having your configuration as you see here. You can just shift click other tracks, and that will also select all the clips for that timeline region in the additional tracks. So again, triple click, shift click. So now all these clips are selected. Let me just show you what happens if there's some more tracks. Actually, let me just make a mess of tracks really quick. Okay, I'm going to move these around a little bit. So I'm not going to play this, so it would sound crazy. So shift click, obviously, it selects all in between, but you can do control or command click to just select certain tracks. So that combining with the triple click to select that region, triple click down here would only select. You can play with the triple click, but it's pretty handy. Oops. So let's say I just want to select like these clips. you can do Control or Command click to copy the timeline selection to some other tracks. So I'm going to create fades on all these at the same time. So I go to Edit, Fades, Create. So now there's fades everywhere. So I'm going to tab to this gap, which, by the way, I have tab to transient off, so that's why tab's working the way you see here. If tab to transient was on, it would be going to every transient in the wave form. So if I don't want to do that, if you don't know why tab is working in that way, it's because tab to transient's on. So if you turn that off, you can just go to your gaps. And you can see the fades. I'm going to zoom in more. We'll zoom in a little bit more. So there's the fades. Didn't really make a crossfade there.
Okay.
So that's why that wasn't selected. So I'm going to delete all these fades. Then I'm going to create them again with crossfades. And we're going to adjust bounds. That just means it needed to adjust some of your clip in and out points in order to add some a few milliseconds to the fades to work. Generally, that won't be a problem, but you should always check out your fades afterward, obviously. So don't worry too much about that.
Listener Ricky.
So now we have a lot of fades. And I'm going to delete all these. Okay, so we got fades. We went over 3 and 4 point edits. We went over naming tracks, playlists. Check. Okay, moving on. Gonna go over some more big picture editing. That's all I'm going to touch on for small edits. So let's say I want to add more material to the right of that guest, this guest.
Me, I would.
So I'm going to talk a little more after this.
Rainy.
Oops.
And that's enough from that guy.
So now I'm going to talk about the weather.
The weather outside is...
So I'm going to take that clip. I'm going to go to shuffle mode. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it again and butt it up against that. Oops. It's so close, it didn't like that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now, as you can see, shuffle mode respected the gap that existed. And let's say, so right now, it's the weather is...
The weather outside is...
And if I were to copy that, I already have that named. Actually,
the weather outside is...
So I might copy it from there because it already has a name. So again, I use tab a lot. So click and then just tab to go to the end, paste.
The weather outside is... And that's enough from that guy. The weather outside is...
Clean it up a little bit.
The weather outside... The weather outside is...
Okay, and I have... I want to add another thing, another clip.
Weather outside, crappy. Kind of crappy.
There we go. Paste that.
Weather outside is kind of crappy.
And if I was moving fast, I probably wouldn't keep auditioning every single edit. I would just do a bunch in a row, and I would just pull words kind of visually, and then I tweak it here. Where's another question I have? I think I talked about my favorite color.
Favorite color.
So I'm just going to use this. I'm going to use whatever this one is. I know this is like one of the colors. And now I can zoom in and tweak these edits. Just to go fast, we don't need to continuously play things.
And that's enough from that guy. The weather outside is...
So I know I'm going to reduce that length.
Is kind of crappy. My favorite color is...
Oh, that's not what I thought it was.
Green.
There we go.
Is green. Is green.
Okie dokie. So let's say I want, like I got all my like shorter term edits. This is one person, this is like a segment, this is act 1, this is act 2. And I just want to big picture move stuff around. So if I go to slip mode if I just if I just select all these, I can add and remove space. If I want to control in detail, I use a nudge feature. Really powerful feature. You can control the nudge amount here. So 10 milliseconds, that's a pretty small amount. I'll do 100 as a tenth of a second, because there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to get if I hold Shift Tab, it's an easy way to select multiple clips. Shift is just, if you just Shift click, it will select everything in between the current playback/edit cursor and where you click. Or you can just hold down Shift and do Tab to go when Tab to Transient is off to go clip by clip. And also to go backwards, you can use Control or Command Tab. So by using Shift Tab and Shift Control/Command Tab, it's really easy to select things. So I'm just going to select these clips. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And let me just nudge these around. So and all I'm doing, I'm using the left caret, right caret. In other words, the less than or greater than sign on the bottom row of the keys for nudging. And we can go as tiny of nudge amounts as we want. Samples would be the most fine. One sample, that is the lowest time increment possible. That's equivalent to frames in the audio world. So we cannot define things by any interval less than a sample. Okay, so don't worry about the other things. Long story short. Another thing we can do, if we just want to add space, this is a pretty aggressive maneuver, but let's just say we want to push, let's say we have like another guest. Here. And let's just say we want to add space to all these at once. We can actually add time. So you can go to Event, Time Operations, Insert Time. If you're not careful, this will mess things up, but you can just add 10 seconds. Oops. 10 seconds. So now it's just between 19 seconds and 29 seconds. It's just going to add 10 seconds of blank. So now what's currently at 19 seconds will now be at 29 seconds. There we go. And it just split everything at that point. We got more time. Helpful if you have a lot of tracks. Another thing we can do if we want to move these around, you can just select by Shift click and then Shift clicking another track in audio clips. You can move everything around as a group here. But if you don't want to accidentally, oops, now I messed up my fine edits because I didn't have everything selected that I wanted, you can group them. So you can select, Shift click all those, group. And now, why did that not work? Let me go back to waveform view. Group. Now this is a group, and it's going to always be locked together. So now we cannot affect the relationship between these until we ungroup them. In fact, you can do that. You don't even need to have more than one track selected. You can make a group. You can double click it, name it. This is, let's say, Act 3. So there we go. And we can always go back and ungroup them. So it's very non-destructive. Okay, let's go to clip gain next. Clip gain's an easy way to ride the level of your show. So if I just click and hold, it brings up this little fader. And be careful. This can get plus 36 decibels. Is very loud. So there's a really wide range you can do. If your material is recorded too quietly, this is a quick way just to bring it up to a reasonable level so you can hear it. So that way you don't need to try to max this out at plus 12 dB just to hear something that was recorded too quiet. And you can select multiple clips and adjust your clip gain. So you can't do it by clicking the bottom portion, which I totally forgot till just now. But when you drag the line, it will maintain the relationships of the clip gain among the clips, but it'll move them all by a given amount. And there's some options here. If you right-click clip gain, you can clear I would avoid render. Render will, I believe, destructively edit the file, or it will create new files, so we don't need to do that. And you can hide and unhide the clip gain. And that applies to every clip. That's a global preference as far as whether to hide or not. And if we zoom in here, and we can add clip gains on a more micro level. If we just go to the grabber tool, we can really get in here and edit things. I would just say you can waste a lot of time doing that. You don't really need to get that into it. The quickest way I know how to do it, if I switch this back to the multi-select tool, I'm just going to hold down. So F6, F7, F8 are these three. So if you just push F7 and F8 at the same time, or any combination of F6, F7, and F8, simultaneously it'll select the multi-tool, for lack of a better term, which will allow you to use all these features, depending on where you are on the vertical plane of the track. So let's just say there's like a loud word or a sneeze or something weird happens. I would just highlight it, maybe even break it by B. The letter B on your keyboard will just break that into a new clip, and then just do that. When you get into drawing the clip gain, this is, I mean, we're not making hit records here. Like, that's a little too intense for podcasting, in my opinion. And then once you do this type of stuff, you can do fades. So here I got some major leaps, volume leaps. When I create a fade, that'll even out that leap. We don't need to worry about modifying the line, because those are now two separate clips with two different clip gain levels. So you can hear this. That guy, that guy, that guy. But if I don't do the fade, it's just that guy, instead of that guy, or you know what I mean. Okay, so in closing, I would say this happens to me if I've been working for several hours with no break. Sometimes I will click faster than I think about what I'm doing, and I end up clicking too much. And I think that is a somewhat common phenomenon where you don't really have a plan for what you're about to edit. You know, you stop thinking, I'm going to put this word here, I'm going to move this region here, etc. So it's just when you find yourself in that situation where you're just clicking a lot and your hands cramping up, and I would take a break and then just remember to always have a plan about what you're about to do before you do it. I'm going to move this thing here. I'm going to add 10 seconds, etc. I'm going to make fades, and just be as deliberate and just kind of have a process, because it's really easy to waste time when you're editing. And we ain't got time for that. Okay. That is as far as I'm going to go. Thanks.